So this otherwise stellar bookshelf speaker was sullied by a lackluster buying experience. We're going to get into all that and how Legacy Audio disappointed me in today's video while we unbox and give my first impressions of the Legacy Audio Studio HD bookshelf speaker. I'm Barrett, this is Spec of Tech, welcome to the channel. Recently, I had released a video on the massive Legacy Audio Focus SE towers that you can probably see behind me here. I'll link a video in the top right-hand corner if you'd like to check that out. But in that video, I had said that I don't like to cast shade on companies or manufacturers, but on the day that I'd be doing the Studio HD video, it might be cloudy, and it just so happens it really is cloudy outside, and today's that day. So make sure you stick around to find out why these speakers were an incredible sounding disappointment. I purchased these Studio HD bookshelf speakers for rear surrounds for my 7.2.4 surround sound system, and I bought them from Amir over at Summit Hi-Fi, which is one of my favorite hi-fi places. So shout out to Amir. His customer service has always been top notch, and even throughout this whole buying experience, Legacy may have disappointed me a little bit, but Amir never did at Summit Hi-Fi. He was always top notch. And while we're giving out special thank yous, I did want to thank my family, especially my wifey, for always putting up with the packages coming into the house for my hobby, but also for the YouTube channel. So thanks, guys. Okay, so let's get on with this video and get into this box. And then I want to tell you guys a little story about how this purchase went sideways on me twice. And then we're going to cover some of the specs and my first impressions of these speakers. All right, so let's get into this box of the Legacy Audio Studio HDs. As you can see, the box is actually fair size because these are a fair sized bookshelf speaker. And it's actually quite heavy, having both bookshelf speakers in here. We'll talk about the specs in a bit here, but they are a fairly hefty bookshelf speaker. And it looks like they have staples. They do, which is going to make this a little bit more difficult, but very well done with the packaging. They're in a drawstring bag. Lots of supportive foam to keep them well protected. But let's see if I can get this out of here. There we go. And lots of very heavy duty cardboard inserts as well. Let's get this box out of the way. And there is some paperwork in here, probably just some, I got some cardboard on me, just some warranty information. All right, so here we go. Get the styrofoam off. And let's get one of them out of the drawstring bag first here. So we'll flip it over just to make it a little easier. So I might as well show you the bottom first. As you can see, there's no feet on them, but the bottom is like a glossy finish, even though I ordered these speakers in satin black. Well, originally I wanted them in black pearl, but we'll get to that in a second. I'll tell you what happened there. But it looks good, I think. It is. There's the grill. And there's the drivers. Very nice looking speaker, very heavy duty, guys. This speaker, it's got some heft to it. It looks fairly small, but it's very solid. All right, so now that we got that one out, let's take a look at the other one. All right, and again, the grills are on there very tight. I'm gonna give them a close once over, and then we'll get into some specs. All right, so that's the unboxing, guys. Pretty simple. I did want to show the packaging though, because they do a very good job. And of course, I wanted you guys to see the speakers as I unbox them. So here they are. All right, now that we have these speakers unboxed, I do want to give a kudos to Legacy Audio for their careful packaging as well as the workmanship on these speakers. At first glance, they do look beautiful, but upon closer inspection, they did turn my smile upside down. But before we get into why this set of speakers made me frown, I do want to tell you guys a little story about how Legacy Audio did me a little bit dirty on the first set of Studio HDs that arrived. Before we do that though, I do want to also point out that the front stage, so the Focus SE towers and the Marquee XD center, arrived without any issues. They arrived on time and everything went fantastic with that purchase. So what I'm about to tell you won't necessarily be the norm with Legacy Audio, but it is my experience, and I do like to be honest and completely transparent with you guys, so I am going to tell you exactly what happened. And I also want to stress one thing, is that I'm not telling you guys this to tear Legacy Audio down. That's not my intentions. I'm not even really trying to cast shade, even though that's how I'm wording it. It's more of just jokingly, but I'm just hoping that they take this information to improve their customer experience from here forward for all of you, and maybe me in the future if I do purchase more speakers from them. Because I do believe that they have a phenomenal product, but at the same time, there is some issues there that really need to be dealt with. So I'd ordered the Studio HDs for my rear surrounds and the Monitor 7s for my side surrounds. Shortly after, I had ordered the front stage speakers, the Focus SE towers, and the Marquee XD center. So it was somewhere in the first few days of May this year. So of course, I originally wanted all of my speakers to match, so I ordered the front stage in black pearl. So I'd also ordered the Studio HDs in black pearl. Unfortunately, the Monitor 7s do not come in black pearl, so I did have to go with satin black with those. But I was told shortly after I placed the order that the Studio HDs in black pearl were going to take significantly longer. So ultimately, I had settled on satin black for the Studio HDs as well, and I was told it'd be about an 8 to 12 week wait for those. So then the first pair of Studio HDs had arrived in satin black shortly after my front stage, so everything was right on time and working like clockwork. But my excitement for the Studio HDs quickly turned to disappointment when I found that both of the speakers had blemishes all over upon closer inspection. One of them was missing a grill when they arrived, and I also found out later on that one of them had an internal vibration when I was running Anthem room correction sweeps. So these speakers were clearly a used pair or refurbished pair of speakers, and Legacy Audio did later on admit that they'd sent out the wrong pair. So of course I wasn't about to keep a blemished pair of speakers that had an internal vibration, so I contacted Amir at Summit Hi-Fi and he sent out a return label ASAP. So there was a lot of communication back and forth between Amir and I, as well as Amir and Legacy Audio, and I thought I would take this opportunity to again ask for black pearl, simply because of their mistake. I thought they might try to get me the color that I truly wanted, but then I was told that black pearl was going to take until summer 2022, which we are now in fall of 2021. So I thought that was just completely ridiculous, but that was the wait time that they were giving me. So once again, I had settled for satin black, and then Legacy Audio came back and said that it would be an 8 to 12 week wait. What? The original wait time I was given was 8 to 12 weeks. So now they're going to pretend that I'm just placing my order now, even though I had placed my order months earlier in May? I says, pardon? So at this point, I was getting pretty frustrated with Legacy Audio, so I had sent them a pretty strongly worded email because their response for their own screw-up has been pretty lackadaisical and pretty disappointing, to be honest, thus far. And they were even aware that I was going to be reviewing these speakers. So to make a long story long, they did agree to send me a new pair of Studio HDs in 2 weeks. And at this point, we're still unsure what happened to the original pair of satin black speakers that they should have made for me from my previous order. They never did answer that question, and we have no idea where that pair of speakers are, but they're going to be making me a new pair. But in the end, I had only received these speakers about 5 weeks later, not the 2 weeks that they had promised, which puts us beyond 7 months from when I had placed the order, and I still have no word on when the Monitor 7s are going to arrive, even though I'd placed that order around the same time I placed the order for the Studio HDs, but I digress. And guys, I don't want to come off that I'm complaining. I know that these are first world problems, and I understand that there are worldwide shortages right now, and a lot of companies and a lot of manufacturers are having trouble getting their products out the door, but what I don't understand is when a manufacturer sends out a used or blemished pair of speakers to a customer and then doesn't seem to make any effort to make it right in a reasonable amount of time. And again, I only tell this story in hopes that Legacy Audio takes this information to improve their customer experience from here forward. I would consider Legacy Audio to be in the luxury category simply because their prices are up there. So you can't sell a luxury product and then offer less than budget customer service. Do your products justice by putting just as much effort into your customer service and quality control as you do in the sound and look of your speakers. That's all I'm saying. All right, so now that I got that off my chest, I can breathe again. Let's move on to see if Legacy Audio can redeem themselves a little bit with this second set of Studio HDs. At least I was hoping that Legacy Audio was going to redeem themselves with this second set of Studio HDs, but unfortunately my hopes were cut very short after getting them unboxed. After getting a closer look at these speakers, I did notice that they have blemishes as well, and not just minor ones either, but I will say that they do appear to be slightly better shape than the first pair that they had sent me. But there are some pretty noticeable scratches on the backs of the speaker. In one spot spot, it looks like they sanded too deep, and you can actually see some of the wood or MDF starting to show through the black finish. There are little nicks and dings on some of the corners, and as minor as it might sound, there are some scratches in the plastic port on the back, which I would have been able to forgive if it wasn't for all the other blemishes. So after seeing these blemishes, I decided to give them a really thorough once-over, and once I did that, I found that even some of the drivers aren't entirely flush all the way around. On one side, they might be flush with the cabinet, but then on the other side, they will protrude past the cabinet a little bit. And in addition to that, I noticed that some of the chamfered edges aren't exactly even. So when placed side by side, one of the chamfered edges is a little bit higher than the other one, as you can see in this picture. And then if you look at them from the back, the one chamfered edge is a little bit wider than the other one. And of course, these are all things that I would have been able to forgive as well. But when you combine it all together, it's not really forgivable in my opinion. And I hate to make this video so negative, but at the same time, you guys know me. I do try to be 100% honest with you, whether it's good or bad. But it is clear that Legacy Audio does have some quality control issues going on right now. I don't know if this is how it's always been because I've only purchased from them this year. But it is apparent, since this has now happened to me twice, that they do need to look long and hard at their quality control. But you know what only needs to happen once? Is subscribing to my channel. Tick the bell icon if you do, and please take just 1 second to hit that like button. It might help me feel a little bit better about these speakers. All right, so now that we have all the negative Nancy stuff out of the way, let's move on to some of the positives after we talk about the specs. The Studio HD is the second highest bookshelf in Legacy's lineup, in price and presumably in performance, fetching a price tag of $2,000 US. They are second only to the Calibers, which are about $6,000 US. This price tag is exactly why I expected more out of the quality control. The prices will vary based on your choice of finish. I suggest that you talk to your local dealer, and for those of you in Canada, I highly recommend Summit Hi-Fi. I have dropped links down below in the description. The Studio HDs is a rear ported cabinet that's 13 inches high, 10.8 inches wide, and 10.8 inches deep, and weighs in at a hefty 30 pounds. There are no feet on the speaker and no feet are included. I presume that they expect you to place them up on stands like I did. The grills on the Studio HDs is a peg and grommet style grill. Really Legacy. At these prices, I would expect them to be magnetic. The weird thing is that the Marquee XD Center does have magnetic grills, but the Focus SE Towers, and as well as these Studio HDs, do not have magnetic grills. I have been told that it is an extra fee if you want to get them magnetic, which I think at this price point they should be included. But again, I digress. That being said, it is a nice grill. It's very well built, at least as far as grills go. And when it is placed on the speaker, it does fit very snug and very tight. So you actually have to put quite a bit of effort to get it off, which is a good thing, so that it's not going to be falling off with vibration. The grills are on there very tight. And a nice added touch is the Legacy Audio nameplate at the bottom of the speaker grill. An area that the Studio HDs redeemed themselves a little bit for not having a magnetic grill is with the binding posts. I've said this in the Focus SE review as well. The binding posts on these speakers are some of the nicest I've seen. They are incredibly well built. And just like the Focus SE and Marquee XD Center, these Studio HDs do have a toggle switch for the treble to knock it down by 2 dB from 10 kilohertz and up. And they also have a toggle switch for the bass region to knock it down by 2 dB from 60 hertz down. To handle the highs and lows, we have a 1-inch dual-pole ribbon air motion tweeter and an 8-inch silver graphite woofer with a phase plug, making this a 2-driver, 2-way speaker crossed over at 2.8 kilohertz. With these drivers, they managed to get a flat frequency response from 41 Hz to 30 kHz, plus or minus 2 dB, so most of you will want to run these with a subwoofer. And finally, they are a 4 ohm impedance with a sensitivity of 91 dB with 2.83 volts at 1 meter. Alright, so that's all the specs that we're going to cover in this video. Let's move on to some of my first impressions. With all of the blemishes aside, I do think that this is a beautiful speaker. The cabinet and drivers are very well built, and they do blend very nicely into an incredible speaker. And I was also very glad to see that they used the exact same binding posts on the Studio HDs that they did on the Focus SEs and Marquee XD, because like I said, they are some of the nicest that I've seen. But as far as first impressions go, guys, that's about all I can say regarding the looks of the speaker. Unfortunately, because of the blemishes, it did kind of take away some of that excitement. But if it had arrived mint condition, this is one beautiful, very well-built speaker. But what would a well-built, beautiful speaker be without good sound? So how about you take a listen for yourself with these demos, and then I'll give you some of my first impressions on the sound. So for these demos, it is only the Studio HDs that are being played. The subwoofers have been turned off, and I did have the room calibration on my Anthem AVM 70 turned off as well, and we are in 2-channel stereo mode. And for the demos, I will have the Studio HDs placed in the front left and right positions, powered by the Nuprime AMG STA amplifiers in mono or bridged mode, so about 320 watts into these 4 ohm speakers. But ultimately, these speakers will be placed as my rear surrounds, and once they are placed back there, they will be powered by the incredibly capable Nuprime MCX4 Class D amplifier, which really does these speakers justice. One quick disclaimer before we get on to the demos is that my recording equipment, my room, as well as the device that you're listening on will greatly affect the sound, so don't take this as an accurate depiction of what I'm hearing in my room. For the first demo, we have an acoustic guitar number, which is simply called Acoustic Guitar 1. So for these demos, I did want to provide a lot of variety so that you can hear different styles of music. So for the second demo, it is a bit of an opera. I think you'll actually recognize it, but it's called Habanera. For the third demo, and keeping in the theme of variety, this is a hip-hop beat and it's called Squatta B TV by Squatta B. And for the fourth and final demo, again, adding some more variety, this is a pop song that's called Gentleman by J2X and Lou.
It's like you play a game, the end won't give you fame. No lucky shot. You said you needed space, but sober, hot and drinking like come over. Your mind is just say no. I can stand to be alone. Let's me
All right, so that's it for the demos. So what are my first impressions on the sound? Well, this is actually one area that these speakers do redeem themselves a little bit. I almost can forget about the blemishes, but not quite. The soundstage of these bookshelf speakers is actually quite impressive. They do sound quite large for their size, and they do provide a very broad soundstage. It's almost reminiscent of the Focus SE towers, but on a slightly smaller scale. So because the Studio HDs are actually using the same 1-inch AirMotion Super Tweeter that the Focus SEs are using, the highs are very detailed, they're very clear, they're very airy. I don't want to say that they're on par with the Focus SEs, but at the same time, they're not too far off. And when it comes to the mids, that 8-inch silver graphite woofer does a fantastic job. The mids are very rich, full, and smooth, but they're also very well balanced with the high end as well. And when it comes to the low end, Legacy Audio claims that these are flat down to 41 Hertz. So depending on what music you listen to and the size of your room, chances are you are going to want to run these with a subwoofer. A lot of music nowadays does have lower frequencies than 41 Hertz. So to get those, you would need a subwoofer. For me personally, if I was going to be running these speakers as my front speakers, I would definitely be utilizing a subwoofer. But that's not to say that there isn't any bass here. My room is actually quite large. It's 21 feet long by 17 feet wide with 8-foot ceilings, and it's a 4-level split home, and this room is open up to, or I should say this level is open up to 2 other levels of the home. And the bass that was coming from these speakers was actually still pretty convincing and impressive, at least for a bookshelf speaker. So in the higher bass frequency ranges, it does have a nice punch to it. Obviously, with a speaker like this, you're not going to get a whole lot of low-end rumble. So I guess the best way to sum up the bass on these speakers is that they're somewhat reminiscent of the Focus SE towers. Of course, there's not nearly as much bass there, but the bass that they do have is very tight, and it's very clean and impressive for a bookshelf speaker. So to sum up my first impressions on the sound in a package with a nice pretty bow is that these sound fantastic. They're very clean, they're very rich and smooth, and they have a very broad soundstage that's actually somewhat deceiving that you're listening to a bookshelf speaker. In my room, the soundstage was absolutely incredible. Unfortunately, although they do sound quite amazing, it wasn't quite enough for me to forget about all the blemishes. So to sum up my first impressions, guys, overall, the sound on these speakers is absolutely fantastic, but I do feel that given the prices that Legacy Audio charges, they do need to offer a whole package here. So not only beautiful sounding speakers, a beautiful looking speaker, which I do believe they have here, unfortunately for the blemishes, that kind of changes things. And they also need to offer top tier customer service and top tier quality control. And those are the two things that I feel Legacy Audio is lacking on here. I have sent another email to Legacy Audio regarding how this second set of speakers has gone for me. So I'm waiting to hear back from them. Make sure you stay tuned for the review video where I will be updating you guys on what Legacy Audio said and what they have done. I'm really hoping that they step up their customer service here because I don't like making videos like this. I believe that Legacy Audio is a great audio company, but they just have a little bit of effort to be made in certain areas. So I'm hoping they do that. So for those of you that have stuck around this far in the video, I'm going to give you a little sneak peek of an upcoming video. You may have noticed that I only have one 24-inch subwoofer behind me, and you would be right. I've already sold one of my 24-inch subwoofers, the Harbottle Audio C24. I'm looking for a buyer for the Funk Audio 24E, and that is because I have new subwoofers on order, and they're going to be coming this month, so make sure you stay tuned for those videos. And one foolproof way to know when those videos drop is to subscribe. Tick the bell icon if you do. Please take just 1 second out of your day to hit that like button. I truly do appreciate it. Remember to enjoy your systems. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Oh, hey you. You're still here? I didn't think anybody stuck around till the end of the video, so thanks for hanging in there. If you aren't subscribed, I feel like you probably should at this point. It's just me, you, and the Studio HDs, so nobody's gonna know. So go ahead, click it. Thank you.